or they're panicked because they're out and they're like, I'm outside the house. Ah! You know.
When you're weary, feeling small.
Hello, everybody. This is Ray Renati, and you have reached Green Room on Air. This is my podcast, y'all. How y'all doing? Hope you're having a great day, a great week, a great life, a great almost post-COVID experience. The masks are coming off. The vaccines are coming in. And once again, life may soon be back to normal. We have a great show for you today. Two old-timers, as it were. They've both been on my podcast before. From the San Francisco Mime Troupe, we have Callas. Ellen is a native Chicagoan who cut her teeth at Second City. You know, like a lot of those Saturday Night Live folks. She co-founded Hit and Run Theater back in 1976, a political sketch comedy troupe that toured Northern California for many, many years. And now she is the general manager of the San Francisco Mime Troupe. And our other guest today, with Ellen, is another veteran of the Green Room, Michael Gene Sullivan. He's a veteran actor, playwright, director, blogger, and teacher who happens to be committed to developing theater of social and economic justice. And that's pretty much what San Francisco Mime Troupe is all about and have been for, well, you'll see, a long time. Now, the reason both of these San Francisco veterans are here today is because the renowned Tony Award-winning San Francisco Mime Troupe is about to release their latest concoction of creative genius, and it's called Tales of the Resistance, Volume 2, Persistence. Now, these very special episodes will be available beginning July 4th. Just go to the San Francisco Mime Troupe website, and you can get your tickets. It's a lot of fun. They always do excellent, excellent work. So I highly, highly suggest that you make an effort to listen to these plays. They will make you think, they will make you laugh, they will make you cry, and they will have you talking with your friends about social justice. Guaranteed. Okay, everyone, enough of that. I enjoy plugging, but the thing is, we got to get to our guests. And so without any further ado, I bring you Ellen Callas and Michael Gene Sullivan. Tell us about your 2021 Mime Troupe show.
Take it, Michael. Tales of the Resistance.
How did you like that segue?
Yeah.
Volume 2. Right?
Yeah. Volume 2, Persistence.
Tales of the Resistance, Volume 2, Persistence.
Yes.
Because we're persistent. We don't give up.
Yeah, and that's a big deal right now also for a lot of people, because after last year, there were so many very successful protests last year that focused Americans' attention on all of these issues that need to be dealt with, mainly because people were home and they had nothing else to do but actually watch the news and actually listen to the radio and actually become more citizen in a way. And that led to all of these very successful protests. Yeah. But now the question is, now that we no longer have, our potential sunburned Nero in office, and now that we feel like it's easy to feel like we've gotten beyond something, but we have to be persistent. We have to make sure that we don't just feel good about having protested, feel good about having a successful election, feel good about ourselves that we've changed as people, but the society can so easily slide backwards into the same racist, sexist, xenophobic, homophobic, transphobic, nationalist cesspit that it has been for the past few years.
Yeah.
America.
We do that, don't we? We get all
Yeah.
excited about something and then it's just gone, and then it's like it never happened.
Well,
It's like
nationally,
little
we have like
kids.
attention deficit syndrome, you know?
I was
Yeah.
gonna say it's like little kids getting a present on Christmas Day. You know, we're like, "Ooh, civil rights," and we play with it for a while, then we get tired of it, and we move on to the puppy.
Yeah, exactly.
And little we know, the puppy's going to take our civil rights. Beware.
Well, I mean, Mime Troupe kind of came out of this. I think you both probably remember this in the 60s and the 70s. I mean, we went through all this before, right? And then
Yeah.
and it's like everyone forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's
Well,
and besides the whole societal and cultural amnesia that happens, then there's the invalidating of people's experience. So that you have people who say, you know, we fought for this, and we have to keep fighting. People, hey, you're old. And it's like,
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
boomer.
yeah, which is just as bad as saying, you're a kid and you don't know. It's like injustice is injustice, and recognizing injustice is something a game that everyone of every age can play.
And
Yeah.
divisiveness is counterproductive,
Yeah.
you know, when the stakes are so high,
Yeah.
you know. And that's always been the big problem with the left in general, I think. You know.
Well, there's just the
attacking
lefter
one
than
another.
thou.
You mean the left attacking each other? Is that what you mean?
Well, you know, it's everybody's got their particular issue, but you know, when it comes right down to it, it's like all those issues come back to, you know, the main point. You know, we follow the money. You know, who's in charge? It does. You know, who stands to gain out of people fighting with each other? You know, or scapegoating as a national pastime.
Yeah. Well, there's some
Yep.
people that say that the 1% or the 1% of the 1% want us fighting one another.
Yes.
Instead
think
of
that
realizing that they're creating a huge class differentiation despite your color or your sexual orientation or anything else.
Yeah, I feel like those differences, people always say, oh, the left is a, circular firing squad kind of thing. And I say, no, they're not. When you've got, Antifa people out there marching with Black Lives Matter, marching against End Asian hate, and marching with, Free Palestine, all of these different movements and Me Too and all of these things marching together, what happens is that the togetherness gets underplayed in the media. And what gets brought up is any divisiveness.
Yes.
If they can find one thing that somebody on the left said that is slightly different from what somebody else says, they will try to get those people head to head in a cage match. And the fact is they're agreeing on 99.9% of the stuff. Why are they not focusing on that? Why doesn't the media focus on it? Because it's more entertaining and it serves the 1%.
If it bleeds, it leads.
And it delivers people to the commercials and keeps
Right.
them subscribing to cable news.
Right.
Which means
And it
more
makes
money.
it so that, and it fosters this myth of divisiveness within a progressive movement.
Yes.
Trying to find something. Oh, this person's wearing a different color hat. They
Yeah.
always want to try to find something to make us appear to us as more divided than we are.
And then
Comedy.
that invalidates that invalidates the whole movement in a lot of people's eyes, right? Either people in
Yeah.
the middle or on the right.
Right.
Yeah.
The traditional idea of march separately, strike together, which has always been a part of the progressive movement in the left, which is, you've got this idea, we're going to support you in that. But when it comes to the revolutionary action, we're all going to do it together and cheer each other on.
Right.
Yeah, that's how we're still around.
Mobilize.
It's not how we're portrayed,
Right.
which is completely different from reality.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, that's what's so interesting about like those QAnon people. It's like those folks come from a lot of different backgrounds. I mean, there's Bernie Sanders supporters that are part of QAnon, which is astounding to me. I don't quite understand it.
Yeah.
But they have some kind of common purpose that makes them stay focused and direct, kind of like those Jewish space lasers,
As
Well,
focused as a Jewish space laser. That should become a saying.
I think that the people who are QAnon supporters, who also are Bernie Sanders supporters, are those who are like super, super like radically anti-establishment and
Right.
hate Hillary Clinton as much as the radical Republicans do. And
Yeah, I don't think that those people who are in both, they'll always point to those and go, well, maybe Sept. And it's like, no. Those people who supported Bernie Sanders and our QAnon people didn't support Bernie Sanders because of any of his programs.
Right.
They supported him because he was an outsider.
Yeah.
And that was it. The same reason those people voted for Trump, because he was an outsider. If you look at the history of American elections for the past 50 years, almost every time, not every time, this last election was different, but almost every time, the outsider wins. Americans choose the outsider. It's never the Washington insider, except for like with someone like Biden, because we were forced into that choice because Trump was a maniac. But so those people that just always going to back an outsider, no matter who they are, backed Sanders, not because of his policy. I mean, he wants national health care. How does that jibe with people who want a smaller government? It doesn't. The fact is, they just are crazy people who just want the outsider. They just want to stir things up because they don't have enough drama in their lives.
Yeah.
You know, they need like more polio or something a real problem, so that they can then focus on like, maybe we do need national health care as a thing, and not just because some.
But then you get a real problem like this past year, and people are still divided and, acrimonious. It's weird.
Yeah, I felt like this past year proved that if we were ever invaded by aliens, all those movies that show Earth coming together when an aliens attack, what a crock. That won't happen. Clearly what'll happen is a bunch of people will side with the aliens. Other people will say the aliens aren't attacking them while they are. Other people want to vote for the aliens,
That sounds like a play.
Yeah.
Gordon, Klaatu, don't stop here.
Yeah.
keep driving.
Keep going. Going.
So, are a lot of these things addressed in Tales of the Resistance Volume 2 Persistence? I assume there.
Well, the first shows, we're doing it a little different this year.
Then this is a radio play again, right?
It's a radio play, yeah. What we're doing different this year is
Because
last year
love radio.
It was or what they're called now, scripted podcasts. That's the new hip thing to say rather than radio play.
Oh, I didn't know.
Radio
play sounds
podcast.
like it's from the 40s or something.
Right, but scripted podcast sounds new and shiny. So last year we did, 10 episodes stretched out over 20 weeks or
something
so.
like that. We went all the way through Halloween. We ended.
Yeah. So this year we're doing 10 episodes, but once a week. So it's going to be every week. And instead of 4 storylines stretched out over all this time and interweaving, there's going to be different things. Like there are 5 episodes, which are 2 stories that go along, that interweave. And then we're having what we're calling one-off episodes, where like Ellen is working on one and another of our writers, Marie Cartier, is working on one. Well, there'll be individual solo standalone shows. And then we're doing community discussions about some of the issues we're bringing up. So like the opening shows are going to be, one is about sexism, racism in conservative news network. Basically, a black woman is the color commentator of color for a network like Fox, who's always there to basically carry water for them to tell the audience what they want to hear. And it's so much easier to hear it if it's coming from a black person, because they can say more racist things and not be accused of being racist. And she realizes slowly there's this mystery that comes up about, well, what happened before I was here? Who was the colored person before I was here? And it's also about all of the sexism, the constant harassment that she has to put up with, being the pretty one at the network. And that's one series, Mysterious Mysteries, the Tale of the Black Fox. Fox is all capitalized. And then the other one is Jailbreak, Passion for Justice. And that's a story of 2 men who have both been arrested, both for resisting arrest. One is a Asian American Antifa protester, and the other one is a Black American drag queen protester, arrested at different protests for different reasons, and they end up getting broken out of jail accidentally because they're in the same cell block as Thor Hammersack, who is the leader of a local white resistance group, Awakowapab, the Americans for Americans who also keep their oaths and are proud of being boys. Awakowapab. And so they get mistaken for people in that group because they're all wearing balaclavas, and they get broken out of jail. And so that one is about a bunch of things. It's about how the media and the police can end up both openly and overtly supporting white nationalist organizations and also how the idea of resisting arrest is used when putting down protests, when attacking populations that are considered not in power, blacks, Asian, brown, women, whoever. The police can attack them and then say they were resisting arrest, and it's a charge that is totally up to the police. It's not like you broke that window. It's like, well, I was arresting you, or I was talking to you, or whatever, and you made a move that says that you're resisting. Therefore, I can charge you with the resisting arrest. It is totally an arbitrary charge and should be outlawed, frankly.
Yeah, police subjectivity.
Yeah, that it is totally in the eyes of the cops, and it is a way to get everybody kind of in the system. It is a way to just, to shut down protests. Oh, they didn't like my special arm lock. They didn't like the way I was choking them.
You looked at me funny, right?
And the public will always believe that. The public will say, that person must have been resisting. The cop wouldn't just say that. Look at the video. They are resisting. Yeah, well, but the cops shouldn't have been attacking them in the first place. They should have been put in a position to have to resist an illegal arrest.
And also, people, when they get scared, they start doing things to save themselves. It's not even conscious. And the cops are in a position where they can put way less force and keep the person under control, or just back off for a second. I don't get this whole aggression. It's unnecessary. I mean, like if somebody is going nuts, surround them, let them run out of energy, which they will do,
There's a case, I don't know if it was Seattle or Portland, years ago. There's a guy downtown with a samurai sword.
Yeah.
He pulled out a samurai sword and he was threatening everybody around. And so the police shot him with sandbags, but he didn't go down.
Yeah.
And they were like, shoot. And so what the police did was they went to the local fire department and they got a ladder. And they then pushed the ladder up against the guy and then pushed him up against a wall so that he couldn't hurt anybody. And then they moved in and arrested him.
Yeah.
What they didn't do was shoot him. What pisses me off, I think, what should piss every American off, is the waste of our tax dollars. We put our tax dollars into training these cops to have all of these skills, and they never use them.
I know.
Yeah. Or didn't we pay $50,000 to you to know jujitsu or something so that you can know how to de-escalate a situation and know how to take down somebody? That only happens in movies.
And that's the militarization thing, too,
They just kill people.
They're not peace officers anymore.
It was going on for a long time, and then everyone all of a sudden had video cameras on their phones. And there's this culture of being able to get away with that because you could never be proven. Yeah. And it's still there, even though the video cameras are there. And eventually they're just going to, unless we put some pressure on them, they have no incentive to not do it because they always get off.
I love that the young woman that photographed the George Floyd murder was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize.
I know. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
That was extraordinary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She deserves it.
It's one of those things that we, if you ever watch Russian dash cam videos.
Yes, I have.
And you see all of these things going on, accidents and stuff. And I'm like, we need more Americans, especially Black Americans, need something like that. We shouldn't be relying on the police who are going to say, I turned off my camera accidentally, or I bumped it, or we lost the video. It's like, no, we need our own video. Always, when you start getting pulled over, you turn on your freaking video so that we have it. Mm-hmm. And then they can never say, well, we don't know what happened before the video. Well, yes, we do.
Yeah.
But that idea that a cop can come up to you, say anything to you, and if you just turn away, you don't make contact with them, they're not touching you yet, but if you turn away, they could say resisting arrest and tackle you.
Yeah.
And everyone will go, well, they must have been resisting. So there's a lot of stuff going on in these episodes. And again, it's done with comedy in such a way to show what the Mime Troupe does. We don't make fun of the issue. We make fun of and use the comedy to a certain hyperbole to show how ridiculous the situation, how ridiculous it's expected that Americans should contort inside of a racist, sexist, xenophobic police state in order to lie to ourselves and say things are okay. It's like, and we have to show that ridiculousness and hypocrisy so that we can hopefully convince people to change things.
Did the plays address the gun issue at all? Because that's one of the things that it's really bothering me now. Is I mean, we have a mass shooting almost every day, I think, and we're just
more than every day so far this year. We got
267 people.
And it's not even 267 days into the year, right? So,
right.
And no one cares. No one seems to care. We're not doing anything. Well, I mean, there are people who care, but the government's not doing anything, as far as I can tell.
Well, the difficult thing, and this is something where the Democrats have had an issue, in my opinion, which has been that the Democratic Party leadership long ago convinced themselves that the greatest danger to them was the progressive wing of their own party.
Yeah.
And which is a huge mistake, because what happens is that all of the local activists are progressives. You know, in every state and county, they're the progressives who are saying we have to change stuff. So when the Democratic Party wants to run people for state legislatures, they don't have any moderates, enough moderates to pick from. They're all progressives. So they don't run anybody, which is how the Republicans end up with fire eaters running almost half the states in this country, which then can say, we're not going to pass adequate gun legislation. You know, just reasonable amounts of legislation to make sure that just a crazy person can't walk into a store and buy a gun and have it without a permit, like Texas wants. So there are people in the government who are working really hard as our employees to try to legislate things, but there are people also, our employees, who are working really hard to make sure nothing happens. Neo-Confederates and Old West fantasists who believe that if everybody had a gun, everything would be safe, or know that some of their most vocal constituents believe that, and they don't want to offend them.
Yeah.
And darkies, they want to make sure that, you know, they make sure that all the white people feel good and afraid of all the black people coming out to the suburbs and taking their Volvos.
And all the people coming across the border because they're coming for their lives.
Right.
In their vacation homes in Minnesota.
If you don't have anything to give anybody to inspire them to vote for you, you use fear.
Yeah.
That's all it comes down to.
Right. Yeah.
And again, comedy. Because the Mime Troupe has to do all of this with comedy. Because if you don't use comedy when you're dealing with all of these super important and serious issues, people will just kill themselves in despair.
Well,
we have to give hope and truth.
That brings me to the topic we should cover, since you only have a couple minutes left. Anybody who's not familiar with the Mime Troupe and comedy, I know we've talked about this many times before.
Not that kind of mime.
Tell us what Mime Troupe means.
The exaggeration of daily life in story and song.
There you go. And that's one of the valid definitions of mime, correct?
That was what it was for most of history. It wasn't until
speaking as an ancient Greek.
Ed Holmes used to say, it wasn't until bad education in the French.
Marcel Marceau making many tours of the U.S. and being on television all the time in the 60s.
Right. Yeah, the French really pushed Marcel Marceau because he was a hero of the French resistance. People don't know that. And so because of that, they were like, and we were trying to push some idea of French culture through the world so that we wouldn't just see them as the people who basically agreed with the Nazis and who were killing people in, what they used to call Indochina. Yeah. They wanted to make themselves seem heroic. So they pushed their culture everywhere. And one of those things was silent mime.
Yeah.
And I have to remind people, even people from overseas, they're like, oh, silent mime. And I'm like, you know the word pantomime? And they're like, oh, yeah, like pantos in England. I'm like, you notice how they're not silent? Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. It's an exaggeration to make a point.
Yeah.
And what I tell people is it's just like doing a Broadway show, only it has a point.
Right. Exactly. Yes, my son just called me. I had to hang up real quick.
Oh, that's why he'll never forgive you.
That's why I just had the brain glitch there.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, it's popular theater is one of the oldest forms of theater. It's not theater for the elite that paid for it. It's theater about people and people's issues. And that goes back to the Greeks and the Romans and the Italian commedia and all that. What we do is a very old tradition. It's, kabuki theater.
Yeah.
It's jatra theater in India. I mean, it's prevalent everywhere. People just go into the marketplace and say,
But it's not that prevalent here, and that's why it's so wonderful that we have you, in San Francisco. What, for the last 62 years now?
62 years. Yeah. So much of American theater just became what I think of as psychodramas.
Yes.
Because they're trying to compete with film. And so most of American theater is you peel off the side of a house and you all sit in the dark while you watch this family go through these really weird problems. And then at the end, the side of the house closes and you go out and you have dinner and you talk about how weird those people were. Whereas popular theater is actively trying to influence the community on a macro scale and not just about be nice to your kids.
And it addresses class issues too. It just lays out the class structure and who benefits from what and who doesn't. And that's very much part of the whole genre from day one.
Yeah.
Whether it was the Borgias or whoever.
And it's very clear. It does it with irony and sarcasm. Humor.
It's accessible, and character archetypes that people can relate to.
And the archetypes, yes.
Yeah.
That's the
So if a big, like Trump is a classic example of somebody that you can, you can't even make that guy up.
No.
But, somebody like that walks across stage, exactly who that person is.
Yeah, the minute he walks on stage. Okay, that's the Donald Trump person. And that's the kind of stuff you guys do, and you do it so well. It's so entertaining, but it makes you think, Although you're probably preaching to the choir, most of the people who watch your show.
Hey, the choir needs some preaching every once in a while. People need to know that what they think is actually true, that to have their ideas validated in a way that is not just insane.
Yeah.
But I have to go now.
Oh, yes, I understand. Yes, I know you have another one. Thank you so much. And so people can go to your website and see this?
Yep, sfmt.org, and there's a list of all the radio stations that will be playing the shows through the summer, and they'll be able to listen to them also on our website.
Great, I will put it up on the show notes. Thanks so much.
It's fun to have it on the radio.
Appreciate it, Michael. Thanks, Ellen.
Thanks.
All right.
You bet, Ray. Take care.
Okay.
See you later.
All right.
Well, you made it all the way to the end. I congratulate you. Wasn't that something? Aren't they great guests? Hey, if you like this podcast, tell your friends. Tell 3 friends. Tell 3 friends how wonderful it is. Send them email, call them, text them, say, hey, you got to listen to this Green Room on Air thing. It's incredible. Hey, if you can, also leave me a review somewhere, like on Apple Podcasts. I love you all. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great weekend. And until next time, folks, I will see you on the boards. Good night, everybody.
When you're weary.